We're going to be talking about a lot about sodium. How much sodium are you on? Are you doing sodium? Are you adding sodium to all your stuff? So what you hear in the health movement is you'll hear, and you've been hearing this probably for years. I mean, it's going on, I think, 20 years, maybe 30 years, is you'll hear out there, take salt and put it in some water. Give yourself some salt water. Take a pinch of salt or a bunch of salt and throw it in. Take a teaspoon of salt or more and throw it in your water. You have to have salt in there. Do the rock salt, do the sea salt, do the high quality salt. And so that's been a big one in the health movement. It's ridiculous. It's actually not even correct for somebody what they need. And it's one of those snake oil things that are out there, and it's just being passed around. There's no science to it. There's no real science to it. It's just one of those things where it was a good idea. Hey, put salt in your water. That will keep you stable and so forth. But really it doesn't. It dehydrates you further. Doesn't allow the water that you're drinking to work for you. And it's not the right kind of salt. So let's talk about different salts as we're doing this right now. And you guys, if you just came on here, I'm making the healing spinach soup, the medical medium spinach soup. I'm really excited about it. It's a powerful healing tool. I mean, if you use the spinach soup correctly, meaning you make it and you consume it, you make it right, and you consume it on a regular basis, what it can do for you, how it can just change fibromyalgia, RA, eczema, psoriasis, chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme disease. Like, what it can do for you is a miracle. Multiple sclerosis. You can literally live on that spinach soup every single day and clear up problems like neurological problems, aches and pains, tingles and numbness, stiffness of the neck, knee problems, inflammation all through the body. I mean, how it can help is just a miracle. So we're going to go into that. We're talking about sodium, and interesting, spinach has a lot of sodium in it. Spinach does. But there's a difference between that and throwing sodium in water. So let's talk about the two different sodiums out there. So there's commercialized sodium out there, the kind that's thrown in junk food, processed food, fried greasy food out there. It's the commercialized salt. It's also the salt that you see in the grocery stores. That's not like Himalayan rock salt. It's not like sea salt or something like that, or a really high quality sea salt. Instead, it's the commercialized junk salt. It's what I have called all these years road salt. It's in all the food. It's in all the restaurants. Restaurants don't buy $50, $60 bags of salt, like a $60 bag of black salt, $60 bag of, rock salt. People don't do that in restaurants. And restaurants out there worldwide, it's just salt. It comes in a 50-pound satchel, 50-pound bag. And that's what goes, and it's, it's all about how you can make that meal as cheap as possible for the bottom line. That's what restaurants do out there. I mean, that is the reality. That's life out there on planet Earth. So what happens is people get road salt. They get commercialized, denutrientized salt. That's what they do. And it's all about, getting that in all the food to make people like it and make them crave it. That's the key. And then there's hidden salts, hidden MSGs, yeast extracts, which are MSGs. And you'll notice yeast extract is in everything these days now. I mean, it's gone from here to here. Like, it used to be just in one item here, one item there in the past. Now it's in everything: organic foods, packaged foods, soups, sauces. You see yeast extract everywhere. What that is MSG. Toxic MSG. And it's thrown in everything. Toxic MSG with added road salt, commercialized sodium, other different chemicals thrown in, tagged and named as yeast extract, thrown in everything out there that you see. Now you'll see it in sauces and soups. Like I said, you'll see it in packaged foods, canned stuff. You'll just see yeast extract everywhere out there. So you got to look out for that. The yeast extract is not good, but it's another form of bad sodium. Another form of bad sodium. Really important to know. So I'm trying to cruise through this information because I got a lot of information, and I'm trying to spill it out the best I could for you guys. So let's hit it. So you got the commercialized commercialized road salt. You have that. Called it that for years. It doesn't have the nutrients. It doesn't have the profile in it. And then you have other salts. Bleached salt. Yeah, they actually have bleached sodium. If you can imagine, not only just commercialized it, but they bleached it. That's a whole nother game too. Now, that's not as popular anymore, but back in the 60s and 70s, salts were bleached. So we've learned to acclimate and learn to like salt, even if we don't realize it. We've learned to like it. We become addicted. So we're a society today that is addicted to salt. Now, a lot of coffee shops put salt in the water, in the machines. So it becomes coffee, salt, water coffee. They don't advertise it. You don't know it. Nobody knows it. But sodium is in a lot of coffees out there. It's in a lot of coffee shops. It's in a lot of coffee chains. Not in everyone, not in everywhere. So you might know somebody and be like, they don't put sodium in their coffee. There you go, medical medium. But let me tell you, a lot of them do. And there's a reason for that. They want it salt. They want their coffee salty. And then when you add your sugar and your milks or whatever you add, your soy, whatever it is that people like in their coffee, you add that in. And then that plus the sodium that's additionally added, you have yourself a coffee that becomes really addictive. And so you keep on going to that coffee chain, to that coffee place. And you can do that, for a lifetime. I mean, you can go to the same coffee chain for a lifetime because of it. And people say, I like that coffee. So it's the sodium in that, in that coffee you're drinking that's really kind of makes it really kick in for a double addiction. So not only do you have the caffeine addiction right there, but you have the sodium and the caffeine combined. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Nobody knew that. Ha ha. But yes, it's true. So it's sodium thrown in everybody's coffee that they buy at the coffee chains. So there's that one. So let's go into the MSG a little bit too, okay? Yeast extract is being thrown in everything because it's another cheat way of getting sodium in there so you actually have a burst of flavor. You can look at the package of the food, the package of the can, okay? And you'll see a certain amount of sodium. But yet it tastes so good. It tastes so salty. Why? A lot of times yeast extract is thrown in there, but they don't add it. They don't add that salt level. They don't put it to the ingredient list. You see how it works? 300 milligrams of sodium, 1 gram of sodium, 2 grams of sodium, but yeast extract, really potent form of sodium, takes it to now, boo, off the charts. So there's a lot of packaged food and a lot of canned food and stuff, even healthy stuff. I'm talking about like organic or healthy stuff or all natural, whatever you want to call it, organic, this, that, non-GMO. And you're like, oh, these chips are really good. This is my favorite chip right here. Yeah, let me look at the sodium, honey. We better look at the sodium. Are you getting too much sodium in you? And it's like, yeah, it says 300 milligrams. That's about pretty much the level I see in other whatever, And then, but it tastes so good because the yeast extract is a whole nother level of sodium that they are cheating people, and people don't understand this. And that's the thing. These are hidden things that no one's talking about. Instead, they're talking about other things Medical Medium brought to town over the years. They're talking about the fragrances now. They're talking about the citric acid now because of Medical Medium. They're talking about so many different things. They're talking about the natural flavors now. But yeast extract, that's a whole nother one. So I want to get that out there because people need to look out because it's rocketed. It's taken off. And I want people to look out for their health and their well-being. And that yeast extract is toxic. It's toxic, not just because of the MSG, which is one reason why it's toxic. I mean, they're actually selling MSG more than ever before now. People are sprinkling that stuff. Looks like white asbestos. They're just sprinkling that stuff on everything. MSG. People are buying MSG. MSG is good for you now. It's like absurd. It's insane. But that's what I mean. How do you heal chronic illness when so much is happening out there like this? So let's get into it a little bit more. In the sodium world, the yeast extract is a hidden sodium right there. You got to look out. MSG, natural flavor, hidden sodium. In a lot of situations, natural and organic flavoring, right? Sodium, it's another level of it. MSG, another level of it. And then it doesn't have to go on the package, so you don't see it on the package. Instead, but it's in there and you taste it and you become like a sodium demon, like it takes over you. That's like literally an addiction. And, whatever. Okay, let's go back a little bit more into the sodium aspect of things. It's key to have sodium come from places where other trace minerals are attached. Okay, so that means if you use a good sodium, like sea salt, right, it's going to have other trace minerals. If it's a high quality sea salt, if it wasn't stripped, it's going to have some trace minerals. If you use a good rock salt or something like black salt, it's going to have those trace minerals there, right? It's going to help. But you still can't abuse that and throw that in water. And that's what you're doing. You're just, throwing that in water and sending it down. You still can go into liver shock and shut your liver down for half a day. And if somebody's really sick, you can shut it down even longer and eventually into liver failure if you don't know what you're doing. And then nobody knows what happened to you. You go to the hospital, nobody knows what happened to you. So that happens to people every day because of salt thrown in water. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. So even when you use these good salts, like a good Himalayan rock salt, like a good sea salt, or a good black salt, even if you use that, you got to be careful and use them sparingly. I'm not totally against those salts. I'm not. You can use a little bit even on medical medium dishes, but you got to be easy on the sodium too. You can't use a lot of that. You'll blow out your palates, you'll blow out your taste buds, and you'll acclimate to an addiction level of acclimation. And you'll be like addicted to sodium, and you won't be able to live without it when you're cooking or making your food or making your raw dishes. You won't be able to live without it. And what's going to happen is you're going to lose your taste to food. You're going to lose your taste to other things. And you won't be able to acclimate to those other things you need, like parsley, being heavy on parsley. People are adverse to parsley. They don't want to put a lot of parsley in their food. They can't handle it. So, including like a low-fat dish or meal, they don't want a lot of parsley. Do you ever see anybody put a head of parsley on a piece of salmon or a fish? Do you ever see that? No, they won't. It's like a sprinkle of parsley on dishes, whether it's fish, whether it's meat, whether it's something else, whether it's a steak, whether it's whatever. The sprinkle of parsley, right? Somebody makes an egg omelet. How much parsley is going in an egg omelet? Probably none, really. It's probably just a few like red peppers are put in there and a couple of other things, right? Onions, right, in your egg omelet. The point is, leafy greens are not eaten enough, and leafy herb greens are not eaten enough. They're not in people's diets. They're not there. And we need those because those contain sodium, but the right kind of sodium. And we also need those because we need to acclimate to their flavors, just like cilantro. How many of you guys now have gotten a lot of metals out of your system? You've also acclimated to the flavor of cilantro. You could only do so much, and now you can do a lot of it. You can only do a little bit, now you can do a lot of it, right? The cilantro. This is important to know. And what happens is that if you oversalt everything and you're killing everything with salt, you're never going to acclimate to foods that will be very important to you when you consume them on the right levels and the amount of the amounts you need. And that calls for spinach too. If you're oversalting everything, you're never going to enjoy a piece of spinach. Really, truly enjoy it because that's where the sodium should come from. Same thing with celery as well. So when we're over-salting our food with the good salt, because that's what you're thinking too, some of you guys, because I know some of you guys are like, I use the best salt. I use the best Himalayan salt. I use the black salt. I use the good sea salt from way up north. I understand. Those are the ones to use. But if you overdo it, you're never going to acclimate properly to the foods that your body and your organs need and want. You're never going to be able to acclimate to that spinach, to that celery, to those herbs, to lemon. You're not going to be able to really acclimate in the places you need to do so, which are critical for healing. And here goes the next level. The sodium in celery is not the same sodium that they're putting in all the food. It's also not the same sodium as the rock salt, and the good sea salt and the black salt is either. They have a subgroup of sodium in celery. I've talked about that, sodium cluster salts. Okay, it's not only a macro sodium is in celery, which is the best sodium, the best one. Not only a macro, but a micro sodium in celery. So the celery has a micro and macro sodium in it. Very important to know. There's a reason for that, right? This is medicinal sodium. This is a different kind, right? Spinach leaves, spinach, the plant, the stems have also sodium in there as well. Now the sodium in spinach is bound. So what the difference is, it's bound to other minerals. They won't separate. So what happens is when you take a rock salt, Himalayan rock salt, when you take a sea salt and you take black salt's a little different. I like it better in many ways. If you take the Himalayan salt and the sea salt and you throw it in water, the trace minerals don't stay bound. They separate and they lose their viscosity. So this is important to know. When you have sodium coming out of spinach, it's one of the reasons it's so healing. When you have sodium out of spinach in your diet, in your bloodstream, it stays bonded to certain trace minerals, which makes that sodium last longer in your system and not a flash in the pan and then boom, it's in your organ and that's it. So here's the key right here. Big one right here. When you're doing sodium in the water, like a good salt that I talked about, rock salt, sea salt, okay? It's a flash in the pan in your bloodstream. It's like treating something with medications conventionally. That's what it is. It's like treating something conventionally with medications, right? Keep that in mind. It's not the deep-rooted, long haul of fixing things and healing things. It's the conventional model mindset. You put salt in there, it's in your bloodstream and gone. It's a shining star and then it burns out. Understand that. This is a big one. So people are getting salt hits. And that's what happens with yeast extract and natural flavoring. Those are MSGs. Those are salts. Salt hits. So you're getting these quick highs. Like salt drug highs. You guys see what I'm saying? So what happens is when your trainer's like, yeah, you just put salt in water. That's what you need to do. Get the good salt. Make sure it's the rock salt or whatever, Himalayan. And you do that and you're getting a quick hit. So you're getting what's called like a salt high. It only sits in your bloodstream for a certain amount of time, gets discarded, or a hunk of it gets buried and crystallizes. So what's happening to a lot of people's brains is they're getting crystallizations from salt deposits in their brains. Namely, MSG is one of them, or MSG bound to other salts. So what happens is that sodium can build up over time, harbor a nice safe haven in your brain or brainstem, and become crystallized as the years go on, and you can literally have these salt deposits in your brain that MRIs will be able to detect as years go on, and you're getting older and older, and they're just going to say, Mrs. Smith, you have Alzheimer's. Really, you got metals, salt deposits, scar tissue, and all kinds of other things growing in there. So you want to minimize whatever can grow in your head.